Tonight, Toronto City Councillor Michael Ford is in hospital with COVID-19. It comes after several provincial politicians tested negative for the virus this week, but some health experts say they should still be cautious. Plus,
oh, that's fantastic news. I know my mom will be dancing down the hall greeting us.
the province eases restrictions for visitors at long-term care homes, and
it helps to stop you from spreading your germs to other people.
if you ride the TTC, you'll soon be required to wear a mask. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Councillor Michael Ford is in hospital tonight after experiencing COVID-19 symptoms this afternoon. He tested positive for the virus this week, a week when several provincial leaders, including the Premier, were also tested. Now, those results came back negative, but as Lauren Pelly tells us, some experts say there is still need for caution.
Councillor Michael Ford checked into hospital today for testing after his office says he started feeling symptoms of COVID-19 this afternoon. Ford tested positive for the virus earlier this week.
We're all in this together.
Ford's uncle, Premier Doug Ford, was also tested this week, along with Health Minister Christine Elliott, after both spent time with Education Minister Stephen Lecce, who'd been in contact with a confirmed case. Results for all three have since come back negative.
You know, I tell everyone, go get tested, so I thought through abundance of caution, I better go get tested.
But before Minister Elliott got her results back, she was caught on camera shopping at an LCBO, sparking online debate over whether that was safe to do. Elliott says the medical advice was not to self-isolate.
Minister Lecce's results came back negative before I went for testing, and so while there was no real need for me to go to be tested, I had made a public commitment to do so.
Experts do warn a negative result doesn't always mean you're virus-free. Research shows there can be false negative results, and it may depend on when the test was taken.
It could be negative because it's too early. It could be negative because it's too late. Maybe, your COVID was there 2 weeks ago. You're not infectious anymore. It could be negative because the test wasn't done properly.
One of Ontario's medical officers of health in Niagara even told local media both Ford and Elliott should consider waiting a few days and then getting tested again to make sure they don't have the virus. In the meantime, given his confirmed case of COVID-19, Councillor Michael Ford is being monitored by staff at Humber River Hospital. Ford's team says overall he's feeling well. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, some good news on the COVID-19 front. Ontario reporting just 203 new cases today. That's the lowest daily number we've had in months. And next week, another loosening of restrictions. Families will once again be allowed to visit their loved ones in person at long-term care homes and retirement homes. However, families will have to follow some strict guidelines in order to visit. Lisa Shing has those details.
For 3 months, Leslie Barron hasn't been able to see her mom, Anne, who lives at Crescent Long-Term Care Home in Fergus, Ontario.
I'm a bit sort of leery about how that reunion is going to go after so much time.
Now that the province is allowing visits to long-term care homes not in outbreak as of June 18th, she's excited but knows too well the realities of her mom's dementia.
Is she going to remember me? Is she going to be distrustful of me as a stranger that she hasn't seen for a while?
Though Barron is already thinking about the visit.
As far as I know, she hasn't physically been outside since March. And my mom always loved to sit outside in the sun, so that's maybe something that we'll plan to do.
For exactly 3 months now, Cindy Pritchard was only doing window visits with her mom at Orchard Villa. That facility has seen the highest number of deaths in the province, but news today it's in the clear and in-person visits will be allowed next week.
That's fantastic news. I know my mom will be dancing down the hall greeting us. It's going to be emotional too. My mom is a person that always loved to be outside, but this time we'd be taking her down to the lake, and you can't do that, right? So it's been hard.
For families who can visit, there will be strict rules to follow.
1 visitor per resident at a minimum of 1 visit per week for an outdoor visit only.
In retirement homes, indoor visitors with higher numbers are allowed, but you have to have tested negative for COVID-19 in the last 2 weeks. Other residential care settings will allow outdoor visits of 2 people at a time. In all situations, visitors have to wear masks and physically distance. As the province enters this new phase of reopening, a message from the Premier to the families.
Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you.
More than 70% of the province's COVID-19 related deaths have been in long-term care homes. Now, when asked today whether he failed residents in long-term care, Premier Doug Ford denied his government did anything wrong. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
The union representing Ontario nurses is trying to convince the province to exempt them from a provincial wage cap, calling their pay increase of 1% an insult to their profession.
Nothing is changing. It's getting worse. Morale is probably as low as I've ever seen it. And you're called essential, but you're really just a body that can be replaced.
It's absolutely exhausting for so many of them. They have been working beyond belief in hours. We need to be protected, but we need to be compensated fairly.
The Ontario Nurses Association says the union's hands are tied as the province passed legislation that caps public sector wages at 1%. Bill 124 applies to teachers and nurses, but not local police or doctors. But the province says it's out of its hands.
Nurses are heroes in our healthcare system. They have risen to the challenge. They have responded in our long-term care homes, in our hospitals, in home and community care settings. I know that there are some issues outstanding, but the matter was heard by the arbitrator. It was an independent process, protected everyone's rights, and so that isn't something for us to question. That's outside of our jurisdiction.
The province says the legislation is designed to protect public sector jobs, and that pandemic pay is starting to be paid out as of this week. Now, that comes after many nurses tell CBC Toronto they haven't received their pandemic pay as of yet. Well, starting next month, you're going to need to wear a face mask to ride the rocket. The TTC is starting to see its ridership numbers bounce back, so now it's becoming the latest GTA transit service to require face coverings. Greg Ross explains how it will work.
While many TTC riders have voluntarily been wearing masks during the pandemic, if the mayor has his way, they'll soon be mandatory.
Rick Leary and Dr. Eileen Davila are recommending that face coverings be made mandatory on the TTC. And that is a recommendation that I fully support.
It will go to the TTC Commission for a vote next week. If it's passed, the mandatory mask rule will go into effect July 2nd.
It helps to stop you from spreading your germs to other people, which in turn, of course, helps to stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus.
It comes at a time when the head of the TTC says ridership is on the rise.
Physical distancing is simply not always going to be possible, especially on our bus fleet. In fact, we've already seen bus ridership increase the highest levels since the province and the city declared a state of emergency back in March.
Children under 2 and people with certain medical considerations will be exempt from wearing masks. Many riders we spoke to today welcomed the proposal.
I think it's a great idea.
That's wonderful news.
But others were skeptical.
I think there's a lot of people who are just going to all out refuse.
And what happens to people who do refuse?
Our concerns, though, are around how this will be enforced and, about people's access to getting the appropriate face coverings and masks and the information. So we are concerned that, we don't want to see more policing on transit.
The TTC says instead of enforcing the use of masks, the plan is to educate riders on the need for them.
We're going to put significant amounts of staffing in stations. We're going to call them COVID ambassadors. There's over 100 additional staff in stations that'll be helping get the word out and helping passengers and reminding them they'll be there with the masks as well.
But the mayor says that's not to say the city can't hand out tickets if they need to.
It's very difficult for people like us, whether it's a mayor or a TTC CEO or a member of the TTC, to say we will never, ever, in any circumstance whatsoever, issue a ticket. The intention is not to do so. The intention is to educate.
The mayor says the city will also be handing out 1 million non-surgical masks, predominantly in lower income communities where people may not have access to them. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Parks in Brampton opened up today as the city moves to ease some pandemic restrictions. And people aren't the only ones excited about the reopening.
Well, the last few months, just walking them hasn't been enough. They've both gained a couple extra pounds because they're used to running every day, playing, chasing other dogs. So they're just so happy they can do their own thing, walk around, graze. It's freedom for them.
Well, the changes include picnic shelters, benches, and of course, off-leash dog parks. But it does not include the use of playgrounds, sports fields, or other amenities within the parks. About 500 parks reopened today, but there'll still be some strict enforcement of physical distancing. Brampton is one of the last regions in the GTA to make this move. Well, family and friends said goodbye to Regis Korchinski-Paquette today. The 29-year-old died just over 2 weeks ago, plunging to her death from a high-rise balcony during a police call. The private service was live streamed for the public. Now, according to her obituary, she loved her family, starting each day texting, "Good morning, I love you," to her siblings. It says she was an avid gymnast since childhood, passionate about dancing, music, and singing. The SIU is looking into the circumstances of her death. The family now says they will speak to investigators likely next week, but for now they are grieving and saying goodbye. Well, students and parents marched in Parkdale today, concerned about a recent racist incident where someone sent an anonymous letter threatening to get rid of black teachers at an area elementary school.
We're here today to come together as a community and show that we are in solidarity against the anti-black racism that our students, our educators, and our families are experiencing in our school, throughout our ward, and throughout the entire school district.
Well, the march took place near Queen Victoria Public School around King and Jameson. The Toronto District School Board called the letter episode a clear incident of anti-black racism and apologized. Now, some of the people targeted in the letter organized today's march, they say they're still waiting to find out if anyone knew who wrote it. They also want to know why no one has reached out to them as part of the investigation that's underway into what happened. Well, at Toronto City Hall, staff are trying to get out from under a huge backlog of renovation and building applications. That, of course, was caused by pandemic restrictions. But now, with over 1,000 applications in the queue, some homeowners are now facing months of delay before they can get their projects underway. And as Farah Morali tells us, for one family, it is turning into a financial mess.
The taping, the drywall is up.
It might not look like it now, but this is Noemi Hallett's dream home.
The kitchen's supposed to continue the length of this.
Hallett and her husband bought this 100-year-old Toronto home late last year and started renovations.
And I'm also super duper excited that we're going to have a balcony.
But a 100-square-foot addition on the back has forced them to pause everything.
We were told we had to go to committee, and then COVID happened. So they have a huge backlog.
The city says they now have more than 1,000 applications. The Halletts have no idea when they'll get a hearing and can't sell their current home until they know they can move into here.
We're going to run out of money because we've got 2 mortgages that we didn't expect to carry for this long. We don't know, we don't have an end in sight. We have no end date. And it's terrifying.
We will start with item number 11.
The city has now resumed hearings with the Committee of Adjustment. That's where applications for variances are heard, but it's all online and things will move a lot slower.
There is no playbook for this, and we've had to reimagine how we're going to deliver this service. And we've done that now, and we're going to be up and running this week and kind of get the tiger by the tail.
There was always a time lag anyway, and of course this COVID has just exacerbated it.
The architectural consultant working with Hallett says the family isn't alone in their struggle. In normal times, the whole process should only take a few months.
Could be in the new year before we actually get a hearing date.
A sense of certainty can't come quick enough for Hallett. The family's preparing for another financial strain. She's losing her job in September.
We're stuck. We are at a complete standstill, and it's really frustrating.
Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
On the beach and in the rocks over there was awful.
Well, after the break, residents in the beach are fed up and cleaning up after some messy visitors. We'll tell you why things are so bad this year coming up. Plus,
we had big changes today with our weather compared to yesterday. Well, another cold front's going to be moving through. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. This one won't be nearly as strong, but it is going to have an impact on our temperatures. I'll explain coming up.
Homeowners and hydro crews are cleaning up the damage today caused by the storms that moved through the GTA last night. And while Toronto had some reports of downed wires and power outages, other parts of the province got hit much harder. Videos like these were posted to social media last night, showing what appears to be two tornadoes that touched down near London in the Glencoe and Belmont areas. Now, they did cause some damage, but thankfully no one was injured. Well, let's bring in Colette Kennedy now. So, Colette, the investigation into that tornado still underway.
Yeah, that's right. They'll continue that, Mike, and determine what the length, the path of the tornadoes were, and also having a look at what the wind speeds seem to be from damage and determining that then in terms of where to put them on the scale. So there's more to come on those, and we'll have that for you. But boy, what a difference 24 hours makes, right? Between yesterday afternoon and then this afternoon, much drier air mass. It felt so much more comfortable, and the temperatures way down from where they were yesterday in the low 30s. So these were your daytime highs for today. Just a beautiful day for the most part, really. And, you know, we're going to have a string of nice days ahead of us, albeit a little bit on the cooler side. So we've got another cold front that's approaching us. Nothing like the stormy one from yesterday. You can see some of the showers along this, but watch what happens when I put this into motion here, how it just dries right out. So it's really going to break apart, loses that bit of moisture. We could get a few stray showers to the north of the GTA, but other than that, we're going to see dry conditions, and it'll be a good start to the day tomorrow. This is 7 a.m. Now, things will change up a little bit later in the day towards southwestern Ontario. As we get into the late afternoon, early evening, some cloud cover moving in, and then we do get into some rain showers here. Could have an embedded thunderstorm there, but you see much of the rest of southern Ontario and into eastern Ontario stays on the dry side. We will get a shot, though, of that cooler air coming in. You're going to notice the temperatures drop a few degrees for Friday, but they come down even further than for Saturday. However, sky conditions into the weekend looking very pleasant. It was breezy today. Tomorrow, those winds turning to the northwest, but they won't be as strong. So in that sense, things will be more comfortable, too. So there's that front as it comes through. The westerly winds turn more towards the northwest, but only a little bit gusty. Today, we were seeing gusts exceeding 60 kilometers an hour. So don't worry about that. Tonight, temperatures dropping to lows around 14 degrees for southwestern Ontario. And then there are your highs for tomorrow. So running below seasonal, we're going to find the temperatures around the GTA as well. Some isolated showers to the north, 13, 14, maybe 15 for an overnight low. And then tomorrow afternoon, here you go, a nice Friday afternoon. 20 to 22 degrees, looking pretty good. Then that shot of somewhat cooler air comes in, and then that's why I've got my high temperature for Saturday just in the upper teens. So about 18 degrees for Toronto, mix of sun and clouds. Sunday, we pick it up a little bit. Monday, we pick the temperature up a little more. And Tuesday, some of the heat starts to pump back in here, but notice we have dry conditions and sunshine through that period. So a nice stretch coming up, Mike.
Okay, thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. Take advantage of special offers now. It's hard to stop a Trane.
People in Toronto's beach neighborhood have been dealing with a lot of garbage lately. Tons of trash along the shoreline, left over from parties and picnics. There's actually so much garbage that the city is struggling to keep it clean, leaving some residents to clean it up themselves. Ali Chasson has that story.
Bottles, broken glass, trash everywhere.
It's one of my favorite places to walk, and as I came around there and onto the beach yesterday, I saw all this amazing piles of junk.
With so much being closed, people come down to the beach to get out of the house, hopefully for some physically distanced fresh air, but what they leave behind ruins
the beauty they've supposedly come to enjoy. I was finding kids use diapers there. I mean, this is just disgusting.
I was out here a couple days ago, and it was wonderful. And then I came the next morning, and I saw the garbage everywhere.
Beach residents have taken it upon themselves to tidy up. The coffee cups, water bottles.
A couple cognac, Hennessy.
Blame it on the Henny. As the old adage goes, blame it on the alcohol. Whatever the reason, wildlife shouldn't have to deal with our trash either.
That's disgusting, and it's not acceptable.
Area Councillor Brad Bradford says garbage has been a growing problem these days.
We actually doubled the amount of bins on Tuesday because we saw that that the garbage levels were getting high over the weekend. I think one of the challenges is right now with COVID-19, our parks are getting a lot of heavy use. People are doing it safely, but they're getting out there, you know, and it's not just on weekends, it's all the time because folks are working from home.
As for the residents who have been cleaning it up themselves,
we have a lot of engaged activists, environmentalists here in the area who make it a personal pride to get down there and help out. But at the end of the day, this is on the City of Toronto. It's our responsibility. The conversation I had with solid waste today was just, you know, I think we need to look at opportunities to do collection more frequently.
the city could up its enforcement. Littering is a $5,000 fine, but I'm told bylaw officers right now are tied up in more of an emergency capacity as it relates to COVID-19. So really the best practice right now is just to not litter. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, you may have noticed there was some wind you could hear in those clips there. One thing to point out, we aren't using those little sponge, what we call wind socks on our microphones because of COVID-19. They're just too difficult to clean. So the clips are a bit windier, as you hear on your TV news. Well, our favorite super fan isn't just a fan of the Raptors, but also of our frontline workers.
This is our just way to say thank you. This is our way to tell the frontline workers we appreciate. We are just doing a little bit part, just a little bit part for them, and we just want to thank them from the bottom of the heart, from all of us, what they do for us on a daily basis.
Superfan Nav Bhatia delivered over 600 meals to thank frontline workers at Peel Police Headquarters today. The Superfan mobile 14-foot food truck made deliveries to 5 different divisions today and made its way to HQ. Now, police, paramedics, and firefighters are also helping to distribute that food back to the community. NAV has been partnering up with local businesses for about 9 weeks and has delivered about 15,000 meals to frontline workers and those who are most vulnerable in our community. Well, start the column, you heard of the cat on the hot tin roof. What about the deer? I'll tell you more about this coming up. Downtown Hamilton isn't known for its wildlife, except perhaps after a Ticats game. But that's why a recent visitor captured so much attention. This is what the people at Sky Auto Collision found clip-clopping on their roof earlier this week. A rather large deer somehow made its way onto the roof of the one-story building. By the time Hamilton Animal Services showed up, the animal was gone. No one knows how the deer got down or where it went. They're even wondering where it came from. The building is at Hess and Barton, downtown. Animal experts figure it may have wandered down from the Royal Botanical Gardens area. Would have been quite the sight to see. Well, that's our show for you tonight. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow night at 6. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.